A double shooting leaves one male dead. Activists fight against gender-based violence in the Bahamas, and the Pan American Health Organization advise of a rise in COVID cases in our region. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tyler Simonet with your JCN News for this Wednesday, November 24th. Criminal investigators are investigating a double shooting that leaves one man dead and another is in hospital in critical condition as more blood was shed on the streets of the capital sometime around 9 p.m. Tuesday night. Police say they were alerted to gunshots via ShotSpotter in the Kwaku Street area. Here's Police Press Liaison Officer, Assistant Superintendent of Police, Audley Peters.
Officers were dispatched, and on the arrival of the first responders, they met two males lying on the ground suffering from gunshot wounds. EMS was summoned to the scene, and following their assessment, one of the victims succumbed to his injury and the other was transported to the hospital where his condition is not known at this time. The preliminary investigations reveal that two males were standing outside a residence talking to one another when they were approached by a lone gunman who discharged his weapon in their direction, hitting one, injuring both, and one was fatally wounded. But we can say that the weapon that was used is a pistol, and a number of projectiles were found.
ASP Peters says that both victims are believed to be in their 20s. However, he could not say if the victims knew each other or if they were residents of the Kwaku Street community. ASP Peters did note that it is possible that it could be gang-related and is not ruling that possibility out just yet.
What I want to say at this juncture is that some persons may seem discouraged. I ask you not to be discouraged because the police are having successes in ridding our streets with firearms. Last week, we were successful in getting 4 within the week. And that is a result of us getting information from members of the public. And we want to encourage the members of the public to continue to give the information to someone you trust. And we understand that. And so as you continue to do that, we will make every effort to work on the information that you give to us. And we want to encourage you to continue to support the efforts in your community, to engage members of the public, to engage the young people, to continue to get positive trends.
ASP Peters says that officers could not say if this homicide is linked to the homicide in Sunshine Park on Sunday night. He adds that officers are making progress into that investigation. Stop the abuse and we want a sex offender registry and we want it now rang out in Rawson Square this morning as a group of activists, including members of civic groups and politicians, came together to bring further awareness to the abuse and harm against women and children following the unfortunate death of Deanna Beller Walker earlier this month, along with the recent incident of domestic violence on a woman who was battered in the streets and ran over by a car. Both incidents sparked outrage in the country. Pradessa Moore, president of Women United, says enough is enough and the time is now to bring more awareness to issues of abuse here in the country.
Together to say enough is enough, we're outraged, what can we do? We're tired of being reactive to things happening. So we now want to be proactive and challenge the government, make demands from the government of things that needs to be put in place to help to prevent these violent crimes from happening. There's so many things we have that's is brewing, but it's not been really fully implemented. We talk about the implementation of the sexual offenders register. We talk about Marco's law. We talk about having a separate court to hear these sexual and domestic violence cases. We talk about just making sure that the laws are in place, putting child care centers in place for mothers to leave their children home with their significant others or boyfriends who can now harm their children. Just making sure that there are things in place as a government to protect our children from child abuse. So this is what we're agitating for. We need them to define what's the worst of the worst.
Former Senator Lisa Bostwick-Dean, lending her voice to the cause, says that there is a draft bill already in the works titled the Gender-Based Violence Bill, which she says she hopes the present government will pass.
But these particular acts are so particularly horrendous that it doesn't behoove any of us, whether you're FNM, PLP, DNA, I don't care what church you go to, it doesn't behoove any of us any longer to stand by. And I am in a unique position because I am aware, I am aware that there is a bill available to the government, and yes, it was available to the FNM government in the last administration, and it was being addressed. Unfortunately, we didn't get to complete our mandate. As everybody knows, we were not elected back in, but the bill was before the legal commission for final review. So yes, while I'm here and I am aware of it, I'm going to give the public that knowledge and say, please, new government, continue with the mandate. The bill is there. Please pass the bill.
The group marched from Fort Charlotte grounds to Rawson Square. St. Anne's MP Adrian White, among those in the march, notes that men have to do their part to protect women and children.
It is essential. It's a key priority for all men to be what they boast themselves as, and that is men. You have to take a leadership role in your communities. I think when men carry out these violent acts, women see it perpetrated themselves because it's the nature and behavior, and sometimes it's the last line of defense to preserving their own life. And that nature then gets carried on into other situations. But men and women, adults, have to take the important position of being responsible to their community, to their families, their loved ones, and to everybody that is around them.
Among the 7 points that Women United highlights in their action plan is shelter for victims of domestic and sexual abuse, publication of the sexual abuse, and immediately passing the gender-based violence bill. The Pan American Health Organization is advising that the region of the Americas is currently experiencing a rise in positive COVID-19 cases. Director of PAHO, Dr. Carissa Etienne, expresses concern for this phenomenon and gives the statistics for the last week during PAHO's weekly press briefing.
Most new cases took place in North America, where both the United States and Canada are reporting increasing COVID incidence rates. Canada's Yukon and Northwest Territories saw a 2 to 3-fold increase in new infections over the last week. In contrast, Central America saw a 37% reduction in new infections.
Dr. Etienne noted that many countries in South America are reporting COVID incidents. When it comes to the Caribbean, she says Trinidad and Tobago are experiencing its highest COVID-19 rates, with 5 of its hospitals over 80% capacity. Barbados, the Cayman Islands, and the Dominican Republic are also reporting high rates of infections. Dr. Etienne also speaks on how these trends, along with the vaccination rates, relaxation of COVID-19 preventative measures, and the upcoming holidays can affect our region.
In many densely populated areas of the Americas, preventive measures have been lifted or relaxed. And this is a worrisome combination that keeps us vulnerable to the virus and threatens our hard-fought gains. With the approaching holidays and upcoming summer vacations in the Southern Hemisphere, I wish to take a moment to remind everyone that our individual and collective decisions chart the path of this pandemic. We have been here before. Our region witnessed a large jump in new cases following last year's holiday season, and it took months for countries to reduce the incidence of new cases.
Dr. Etienne calls for all those who are planning to travel during this holiday season to get vaccinated beforehand to reduce the chance of COVID-19 transmission. She also advises to keep holiday gatherings with family small and to follow public health guidance. She says that decisions we choose over the next few weeks will determine the course of the pandemic over the next year. Shortly after 1:30 this afternoon, the inaugural Virgin Atlantic flight from London touched down in the Bahamas. The Boeing 787 departed from Heathrow, London, with over 120 passengers. According to Vice President Global Sales for Virgin Atlantic, Lee Haslett, he says there is pent-up demand for Europeans to come to the Bahamas.
I'm absolutely delighted to be here on Virgin Atlantic's inaugural service to Nassau. As they say, it is better in the Bahamas, and it's easy to see why, with some 700 islands for our customers to explore. The last 18 months has changed our industry, and no one knows that more than Virgin Atlantic. We've been and we are emerging stronger from the COVID pandemic, and we are more committed to the Caribbean region than ever before.
The Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism and Aviation Chester Cooper and Nassau Airport Development officials were all on hand to greet the passengers as they disembarked. DPM Cooper says this about the bi-weekly flight, which will cost around £650, which works out to approximately $860 plus USD.
Flight could not have come at a more critical, exciting time as we usher in a new day for airlift, even as we continue to aggressively forge ahead in our rebound and recovery efforts following the devastation from Hurricane Dorian and the COVID-19 effects. International travel has been significantly impacted, and it is indeed a pleasure to see Virgin Atlantic join the growing number of air carriers that are restoring connection between travelers and the warm, welcoming people of our country.
British High Commissioner Sarah Dixon describes the flight as awesome and that it's really good to have flights coming in from London to the Bahamas.
If you add it to the British Airways flights that are already here, you've got Virgin Atlantic twice a week, British Airways 6 times a week, that's 8 times a week to Europe. Hasn't been like this in a decade. And London's a gateway, so you're going to have people coming from all over Europe, all over the world, through London to the Bahamas. And to be honest, the Bahamas is a fabulous place to visit, so I think you'll see a lot of them.
Director General of Tourism Joy Jibaloo noted the country is looking forward to providing exceptional vacation services for all Virgin Atlantic customers. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.